Welcome back to another episode of Navigation and Discovery with Cameron Singh. This is a special episode. It's a day late. I really wanted to release this yesterday on the 31st, but due to flight delays, I was unable to record the podcast last night. But I'm here on January 1st, 2024. We're going to go and take a review of 2023. And I know some of you have really never heard me. I've been on the podcast as a host, but never really provided insights and reflected upon, my story. And so I'm going to provide some reflections of 2023 and take some time also for you to reflect on 2023, things that you have experienced, that things that you've gone through over the year, the highs and lows, some things you might have forgotten. This morning, I just went to scroll on my phone and realized, one, I take too many pictures, but it really was a great time to reflect on all the experiences I've had that I've captured, things that I even forgot that I've been through or went or attended. And so it was a really good time to go through. So one of the first things that I made some notes here is one of the first thing is 2023 was for me really a season of transition. So I'm going to talk about the podcast later on, but I really wanted to take some time to take a deep dive into a little bit of my story, things that I went through over to 2023, and then really look and giving some insights on what's in store for 2024. So one of the first things here was it was a season of transition. There was a lot of transition involved in 2023 with book launching a podcast. Things changed with work. Things changed with businesses that I started years ago and businesses that I started as well. And really a lot of transition in just things that I've always wanted to do. I finally had the opportunity to pursue. So that was one thing. And another thing through that was also self-discovery. The theme that I was talking about in the podcast was purpose, passion, and calling, which are things that I'm so passionate about. But I've really felt that I was really getting closer to what am I called to do? What is my purpose here in life? And I really was on that journey of self-discovery through even the book that I came out with, Navigation and Discovery. The next thing was faith. Now, as a Christian and believer, and I'm fairly new to talking about faith in a public setting, so I was really focused on listening to the voice of God and listening to God and where is He guiding me towards. Um, and so that was a big part of honing in on my faith, really understanding what faith is all about. And I still am not quite there, which is why I'll be launching some things in regards to this, because I want to take, for those that are interested in faith, interested in exploring faith, interested in getting the tough questions answered. And I know a lot of young people struggle with this, and I struggle with this too. So I'm going to take you on this faith journey as I take a deep dive and explore what the Christian faith is all about. What does a relationship with God mean? I'm going to take you on that journey as well. And some of you have gotten a flavor of that journey in 2023 with the launch of this podcast. I've had various pastors, various people of faith on this podcast, and we've just uh, touched the surface, I would say, in having these faith conversations. And I feel like there's been a calling to take a deeper dive, go into having those difficult conversations with people that are leaders in the Christian faith. And so that's what we'll explore as well. Another thing that I wanted to reflect on is, of course, the book release. That was a really big deal of having this podcast. This podcast came about from my first book, Navigation and Discovery. And that was a dream on my heart and something that I've always wanted to do. And I never thought I would be able to do it so soon. And thankfully, I got plugged in with an awesome community with Sam Chand and his team there, with Four Rivers Media and Dream Release for Publishing, was able to really unpack the ideas that I had on my heart for so long that I brainstormed in Tarifa, Spain. I think it was 2021 or 2022 that I was able to brainstorm on the book that I wanted to write and really unpacked it into four different messages. So, Navigation and Discovery was just the first book that I finally launched out in March of 2023. And I took the rest of the year to really write out the second book and really package that message properly. And that is just almost to its finish line. Still have a lot of work to do. There have been some delays on book two because, again, like I mentioned, it's been a season of transition. I've been focusing a lot on making sure that my businesses are in good shape. Been focusing on that and also planning for what 2024 holds. So I've been a little bit set back for the book, but I really hope to launch that within the first couple months of 2024 and begin writing the third book, which hopefully will launch later in 2024 as well. And so there's been a lot of new and uncomfortable in 2023. I've been really trying to go against the grain, trying to pursue things that I've always wanted to do, and really just, you know, launching a podcast. That was something that I never thought I would do, but it was just the right time, the right moment. Um, and I feel like a part of that was being connected with the right people at the right time and really understanding, where is it that I want to make that influence, that impact, sharing my experiences, my story, but also bringing other people's stories to light. And I hope that you've enjoyed the first 36 episodes of the podcast. I know a lot of content has been put out with these podcast episodes, and I'm going to focus on, especially in the first half of 2024, is to make sure that content is repurposed so that I continuously share those awesome interviews that were on the podcast. And really, the fear was really, putting myself out there on video, on audio. What would people think? But I took that leap of faith and just went for it. And thank you so much for those that have supported me and those that are listening. I know there's people all around the world are tuning into this podcast, and I'm so thankful for the impact that it's making. And I really want to hear from you wherever you are listening to this podcast. Send me an email, send me a message on Instagram or whatever that is, singcameron@outlook.com. I want to hear from you. What is speaking to you? Because I would really want to speak to what people are connecting to and what you are connecting to. Another thing is honing in on many ventures. TC Advisory Group is a leadership company that we started earlier in 2023, really maximizing on that and really putting that into the trajectory for growth in 2024, and even starting another podcast with that. In the leadership space, I was co-host of the Leadership Download podcast, and then we went and started the Executive Leadership podcast to really focus on higher level leadership content that our listeners were pursuing. And one other thing that I really got to experience in 2023, which I have been for several years now, is really traveling. But I've always traveled for work, but I've always had limited leisure travel. And so I've been really honing in on really maximizing my time, taking time for self, for leisure travel, traveling for fun, and really exploring the world. And for those young people listening, that's what we need to do is we need to experience the world, experience different cultures, go travel into new different regions where you've never been. I've been able to travel to play different places in Colorado, explore the mountains, explore different parts of the Midwest. I went back to Antigua earlier in the year, which was an awesome time. to get back and focus on rest, relaxation, getting in some sun and some nice salt water. Um, Another thing that I would say for 2023 is really investing in self. And I feel like this is so important that if we want to continue growing, personally grow, professionally grow, we need to carve out some not only time but money to invest in ourselves. And some people say, I don't have the time to invest in myself, but if you don't take that time to invest in yourself, it's going to be really difficult to grow and take yourself to the next level. And we always want to continually grow, continually find ways to improve. And it could be small steps that you can take, whether it's taking an online course, watching a YouTube video, watching a sermon, whatever it is, to reading a book, watching a podcast, listening to a podcast, is wanting to grow and take yourself and just get better and better over time. And so here's some of the things that I just invested myself in this year in 2023. The biggest investment was, I would say, publishing a book. That is writing a book is of itself is a journey in of itself, but the publishing, going through the process of editing, being coached by an author, professional author coach, going through the editing, manuscript, all that, that was a huge investment, but so well worth it. It was packaged so well, and I'm so thankful that I was able to have that to publish my first ever book. Another thing was I attended some events that I really took the leap of faith to invest in myself. Is Sam Chand hosts an annual leadership event at the Porsche Experience in Atlanta. Went to that, being in really high level leaders, being in a room of high level leaders, and I was so thankful to be a part of that. Another thing is the Global Leadership Summit. I attended it for the first time virtually, and now I keep it as a rhythm going in person in Chicago at the Willow Creek Community Church and attending that in person. Also, I went to a real estate conference, also real estate seminars, just really wanting to expand my leadership business and learn more about areas and different things that I can do in real estate. And also VuCon, Vu Church hosts an annual conference, and I was finally able to attend the conference in Miami, which was awesome. And then I attended Pastor Todd Bishop out of Long Island, New York. I attended his Church Unleashed Leadership Conference. He recently released a book called, I think, Leadership Unleashed, and he had a conference, a leadership conference, and I wanted to go out and meet him and meet his congregation, and also attend the conference, which was great. And also, lastly, ended the year with attending the Arena. The Arena was a community set forth by Pastor Erwin McManus of Mosaic Church in Southern California, and took some time to really hone in on that community and really get together with like-minded people that are creatives, that are authors, that are podcasters, that are entrepreneurs, and just being in that type of community was so great. And I really look forward to getting more plugged into the Arena community in 2024. And some other things that I really focused on in 2023 is self-care. And this is really, I think time management was a big one for me, is really taking back ownership of my time and taking control of my time. Oftentimes, we let other people or work or things that circumstances that we don't necessarily take control over. And so I really took control of my time, making sure that with the time that I have, whether it's the weekdays, the weekends, different seasons of the year, is really being intentional in where I spend my time. And I feel like I'm still quite not there, but I made a lot of progress over the year. One of the big things that I'm going to focus on for the year is continuing to really be productive, especially doing better at sleep. And I'm going to talk a little bit about more of that later on what's in store for 2023, not only for me, but for the podcast and other things that I'm planning. In addition really focusing on time management, is focusing on rest. I really took time to, oftentimes we get consumed with just grinding it out. Whether you're starting something new, you're in a new work environment, you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to start a lot of things, have a lot of these ideas, but really taking time to unplug and rest. And I started the year out going to the Oak Center in is really reflecting and taking time to reflect and wanting to take some time for self. And I think that's so important. Although it's very selfish, people might think, but it's so re-energizing to take time for yourself, focus on yourself first. I found that focusing on me first and really taking time to reflect and take care of my mental health has really been very fruitful for me in 2023. And it's still not quite there, but I still have a lot of work to do, but I made a lot of progress and took little steps. And I'm not perfect. There's times when I did not take those steps, but really working towards the little steps that you can take to take care of yourself. I golfed a lot, which is something that I wanted to do is get better at golf, hone in on golf, and also is a good time for me to get into community with people, go hang out, take some time off, and go spend some time golfing and honing in on my hobbies, other hobbies, reading, writing, podcasting, all those different things are things that I enjoy doing, making time and carving out time to do that. And cooking was one thing that I really picked up on during COVID when I lived in Antigua. I learned really how to cook from my roommate who really I saw had a passion for cooking and learned a lot from him. And since then, I've really learned how to cook, doing different recipes. Now that I have a lot of spare time at home, now that I'm working from home, running my own businesses, and doing a lot of different things where I have some flexibilities that I get to spend some time, especially on the weekends, really spend time and just cook and listen to music, watch TV, listen to sermons, and different things like that. That's another thing that I've really developed on. And also, lastly, is building community. Building community, I think for me, was very important over 2023 is being in community of people that are going to take me to the next level, being community of like-minded people. And I think I finally found that both in faith, both in business and in life. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what 2024 is in store with my community in terms of getting in a business community, getting in plugged into my church community, and really making sure that the people that I'm surrounding myself with are taking me to the next level and not holding me down. Because that's another thing I think that's something that I've been trying to figure out is spending time with people and giving time to people that really I can add value to, and also they add value back to me, and that can take me to the next level. So think about that as you're thinking about the people that are in your inner circle or your people just that you are surrounding yourself with. Is are they lifting you up or are they tearing you down? So those were some of my reflections for 2023. I know it was very fast and very brief, but the purpose of this podcast, I think what I'm going to do a little bit more is take you on my journey of just life as I experience it. Probably maybe once a month to do an episode of just me without any guests. I know sometimes the guests are great, but I know some people just want to learn more about other people, and I'm really going to give you providing some more insights on my journey and my life as maybe monthly updates or whatever that might be, to give you some insights on things that I'm going through, questions that I'm going through, um, reflecting on some of the podcast guests, maybe unpacking some of that content. And so going back to the podcast, it's been great to have 36 episodes so far in the podcast. And I feel like I've been able to get the right yeses and the right guests onto the podcast, a good variety. I know it's a lot of faith content on the podcast, And that just naturally happened due to, the people that I wanted to meet, the people in my network that I wanted on the podcast. And I'm so thankful for the people that have added value to this podcast in 2023. And if you've been following me on social media, I've created social media profiles just for the podcast. So if you've been following that, I'm going to go through very briefly the top 5 podcasts that have really had it, not that have been necessarily popular, but the podcasts that have made an impact in my life. I feel like through having these guests on the podcast, I've learned so much and I've grown so much because these are questions that I am wanting to learn from, questions that I've been wanting to ask these specific guests. The first guest, which I've been trying to get on the podcast for quite some time, is Ben Prescott or Ben Prescott. I hope I'm saying his name right. And he used to be the pastor of Free Chapel, Orange County. And he's the pastor that I've been watching his sermons over the years and really has spoken to my life. And so just the topics that he's preached on, his social media following or posts, and is just something that always his sermons always spoke to me. I've used to watch his sermons on a weekly basis and sometimes rewatch it. And I really wanted to speak to him and meet him and got the opportunity. His team said yes and was so grateful. And just the topics that we touched on, talking about his struggles and just him showing his authentic self, I think I learned so much from that episode. The next one is David Lindell. He's a pastor of James River Church and had the opportunity to interview him. And we touched on a variety of topics, really on leadership and just questions I had about life. And it was such an encouragement to have him on the podcast. And I'm really excited to attend the James River Church Stronger Men's Conference in April, which I'm looking forward to attending. The next one is Nick Nilsson. Nick Nilsson is a pastor of Lakewood Church, which is led by Joel Osteen. He just came out with a book called You Can Live the Dream. And that was another encouraging podcast episode talking about dreaming and how you can live the dream wherever you're at. Things like go and do it afraid. You can live the dream now wherever you are at in life. You don't need to wait to get to a certain destination. And it was so awesome getting together with him and just getting encouraged and rejuvenated after that conversation. The fourth one is the first episode of the podcast that launched was with Eric Hietala. And Eric has been really my mentor since starting out my career in the workforce and in the aviation industry. He's been a great mentor, a colleague, a boss that has turned into a dear friend of mine. And I'm so grateful to call him a mentor. And so really took some time on this podcast. And I was a bit rough on the edges in podcasting because it was the first time where we were talking about these topics. We touched on a variety of topics and took some time to really reflect on this mentor-mentee relationship that we've developed over the last 10, 15 years. And so that was an amazing podcast personally for me because it was a great time to reflect on our mentor-mentee relationship. And lastly, this was a tiebreaker, so I had to include both of them. Is I've had the honor of having 2 astronauts on the podcast, Sarah Sabri and Keisha Shahaf. Both individuals have really broken the glass ceiling in terms of they've been able to achieve their dreams and make their dreams a reality. Astronaut Sarah Sabri being a person of Egyptian and African descent, and Keisha Shahaf went to space with her daughter and was the first Caribbean woman and first mother-daughter duo to do so. And just following their journeys and really taking a deep dive into their journeys into making their dream a reality was so encouraging. And I'm even interested in seeing if that's a reality for me. So those were just some 5 podcasts, and you can go back and go on my social media platforms, and you can go back and see some of those clips from the previous episodes that I mentioned, and also on whichever podcast platform you're listening on, you can go and follow the social media profiles of the podcast. So now talking about 2024. So today is January 1st, and I know many of you are like some of you have vision boards, some of you have already figured out your resolutions. Some of you are kind of still figuring out like it's January 1st and I have no idea what I'm doing. And that's okay because I really don't have an idea either. I made some notes this morning as I woke up and just reflected on 2023, and I'm still trying to figure out what the year has to hold. And I think I'm taking this approach a bit differently this year. Is I think I'm going to take it a few months at a time. I'm going to plan out, there's things that I of course want to achieve, within 2024, but really honing on those small steps and achievable steps to meet those goals, those overarching goals for 2024. And I think that's what I'm going to take is so just really honing in on planning the first 3, 4 months of the year, focusing on what I can do now, what I can do in January, February, March, and maybe April if that's not too far out. What I can do, and that's very, very achievable, and focus on that and focus on those goals to meet those overarching goals for 2024. So one of the first things that I want to talk about is a new podcast. So I know I've brought a lot of faith into this podcast, navigation and discovery, and that's really not the direction that I wanted to take this podcast. I really want to this podcast to be a podcast where people from all walks of life can come in and share their stories, and also listeners where your faith, not of faith, and really learn from other people's stories. So I'm still going to bring on faith leaders. Faith is still going to be a part of this podcast, but I really want to create a community of people that are into faith and really exploring faith and want to learn more about faith. And I'm on this faith journey as well, still exploring what faith is all about. And so I'm going to be launching a podcast that is focused on faith. And I've been noodling around several ideas on what this is going to look like. And I think it's going to be is a combination of bringing on some faith leaders from the church, bringing on some young people that are podcast in the podcast world, doing that are Christian influencers, that are in it, learning from their journeys, learning from authors, Christian authors, and so we're going to include some Bible teaching. I really want to learn more about faith and take a deep dive into the Bible. Also, going to introduce some preaching. That's something that I'm working to educate myself and develop, and I'm going to be doing some of that as well because I want to take you on this faith journey that I'm on. And if that's for you, then I'm really excited to share this new podcast with you. I don't know when it's going to launch or when this thing is going to happen, but we'll see. It could be 3 months from now, it could be a few weeks from now, but that's one thing on my heart for 2024. The next thing for 2024 is really launching out that second book that I've been working on writing at the latter half of 2023. So finalizing that and getting that out there in the right hands. So I'm really looking forward to getting this book out to you. And this book is really going to continue my journey of navigation and discovery. And this is going to talk a lot about more of my experience, my first years in leadership, and how I really navigated through my early leadership years, being such a young person in senior leadership and executive roles, and how I really took on that and really sharing my story and how I struggled through that and learned from my mistakes. And I'm really excited to get that message out to you. And also, I'm going to start planning for book 3. I really hope that by the end of 2024, or hopefully before it's over, that I able to write and get book 3 launched as well. Next thing is entrepreneurship. I've really entered the entrepreneurship space a couple of years ago with just dabbling, side hustles and trying out different things. But now that's really become my primary. And so some things I've been focusing on is real estate, building my own aviation business. Along with that, TC Advisory Group, that's the leadership business that I'm partnered in. and really focusing on career and college coaching is really helping young people find direction, find definition on what it does it mean to really position themselves to success and what that means. Things like resume writing, building your personal brand, and really honing in on planning for the next step and what you can do now to plan for the next 5 to 10 years. Another thing is self-care, taking time for reflection. I feel like I've started that, but I still have a lot of work to do in that and finding the right rhythm. I think something that I have not done yet is I haven't really found my rhythm, my day-to-day rhythm. Every day looks very different for me. And so in 2024, I really want to find a good rhythm. And I think to really start that, I've funny enough, these books I purchased in 2022, end of 2022, one is A Daily Word for Men, and one is 1 Year Devotional Mission Possible by Tim Tebow. So this is a devotional and this is a daily prayer. And so I've started this today, and we'll see how consistent I can be with this. Of course, it's really hard to be consistent and find that rhythm. I know things come in our way that we can't control, but you really finding that daily rhythm, waking up early, finding that time for devotion, and I think more so reflection. I haven't taken time to do that. And just having a daily rhythm, carving out time for certain things and being a little bit more and having the right systems in place. I think that's going to be a real focus is having the right systems in place so I can have a proper rhythm. And let's see what's on my notes for 2024 is taking action. I think when it comes to investing yourself, learning, continually educating yourself, pursuing education, is taking action. And I feel like I'm not quite there yet in terms of taking action with things that I've invested in, educated myself in. So that's what I'm really working towards 2024 is taking action, giving it a go, trying things out that I've always wanted to do, getting myself out there. I know that's a lot of fear in that, but getting myself out there, going against the grain, doing things that people have never done or people are afraid to do, and giving people the encouragement that, hey, you can do it as well. It's not just me starting a podcast, not just me writing a book. It's like giving people that you can do this too. It's not just me sharing my message, getting popular or whatever that is, getting more followers, getting the views on podcasts. It's no, you can do that too. And that's really what I want to do in 2024 is provide that encouragement and guidance for other people. And also continuing to invest in myself and finding other ways to invest in myself. Continuing to, in January, actually end of this month, I'll be going to Aruba with on a Sam Chand leadership experience retreat. Really, that was a huge investment on my part to go out and find some time to not only go out to the Caribbean, which I really enjoy, experience a new island, a new region that I've never been to, as and also focus on developing on my leadership and taking some time to reflect and retreat. So it kind of covers a lot of different things, which is why I really wanted to do that. And going to the Oaks, I'll be going to the Oaks Center in March. That'll be another time for rest and retreat. Global Leadership Summit, and also going to VUCon, and also getting plugged into the arena and really finding other ways to invest in myself and get better, continually improve myself both personally and professionally. And I think another thing is focusing on me. And I know that might seem selfish, and I mentioned that earlier. Is it's not selfish to focus on yourself because you have to take care of yourself first. One of the books that have has been so impactful in my life is a book, Leading on Empty, and I heard this a speaker talk about this book at a Catalyst Leadership Conference, and Leading on Empty by Wayne Cordero, if I say the name right. This is a pastor talks about his experience of him pouring into others and truly leading on empty. He wasn't filling his own cup. And 2024 is going to be focused on, for me, is really filling my own cup first before filling others. And of course, I still want to pour into other people, give encouragement to others, provide value to people, but it's not going to happen until I take care of myself first and fill my own cup first. So that's going to be a real big thing for 2024 for me. And last but not least is really my faith journey, is honing in on my faith, continuing to explore what faith is all about, continuing to be intimate in my relationship with God and really understanding what that means, understanding what a relationship with God means, understanding the Bible, understanding what it means to be a follower of Jesus and be more like Jesus. And that's pretty much it. So I know it might have been a lot to kind of go through and unpack. Some of you, this is the first time you're hearing my voice. Well, my voice and insights on um, my life and things that I've been going through for 2023. And really, I want to encourage you to, oftentimes we get into these plans, goal settings, planners, things like that. And all this stuff is great. But let's take those small steps. What small steps can I take today? What small steps can I take tomorrow? What are some small steps that I could take in the next few weeks to meet my goals for the new year? And sometimes we try to find all the answers, and really we can't find all the answers to the year or life and plans, because really the plans never work out. And I've had to learn that, you can only plan so much, and life tends to hit curveballs that come unexpected. I've had a lot of things come my way during 2023 that I've never expected, but I'm so glad that happened because I would never have been where I am sitting today. And things, you're going to experience things in the new year that you never expected, and you're going to feel times of discouragement. You're going to have your mountains, you're going to have your valleys, but you have to learn how to navigate through those and have the right people around you to navigate that through. And that's what I hope this podcast and my books, and that my whatever I provide to you, the listeners, or those that are watching, is that I can come on the journey with you. You can come on my journey with me and also provide me maybe insights, advice. And I've learned so much from having this podcast, having guests pour into me, and so many guests more that that conversation that I'm going to share with you in 2024. I actually have a lot of recordings for January and February that already have met with these guests and I'm so excited to share with you the first conversation, actually, which is going to be with Krish Dunham. And Krish is someone that I've heard speak at several conferences and watched many of his YouTube videos. He was mentored by Zig Ziglar, and you're going to learn so much from Chris, and it's going to be an awesome first guest podcast of the year. And so I'm so excited to share that with you on Wednesday. I know normally I release podcasts on Tuesdays, but this podcast will be released on Wednesday just because to give you time to listen to this podcast, maybe listen to it again, and give you a break. And then on Wednesday, it's going to be an episode with Krish Dunham. And so really hope that you are enjoying day one of the new year of 2024. I pray that you can find peace and happiness wherever you are at listening. I hope that more and more blessings come your way, and that all that you hope to accomplish in 2024 happens. And if it doesn't, make those shifts. There might have been some things in 2023 that you're like, man, that did not happen this year, and I hope to do that next year. But what are the shifts you need to make in life? And we'll talk about more of this. And feel free on whichever platform you're listening to, watching, connect with me on social media, send me a message on things that you want to hear within the new year. And I really want to make sure that this podcast and with the other content that I'm sharing with you is adding value to you. And really hope that 2024 is your best year yet, because what we're trying to do is get better each year, every year, and get better and to reach the next level. And I really hope that 2024 is your best year yet. And like my pastor, Brian Houston, says, the best is yet to come.